What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over the new meta in Fortnite Season 3, because if you were unaware, in yesterday's update, the Combat SMG was vaulted, which makes a huge impact on what weapons you're going to be using in-game, because the Combat SMG was far and away the best submachine gun. So vaulting it is the most substantial change, I think, that we've had so far in Season 3. Like, at the launch, we got the Hammer AR, the DMR, and the two-shot shotgun, which those guns can be good and they might have their uses, but they weren't as overpowered or as useful as the Combat SMG. Pretty much everybody was using the Combat SMG, so now that it's gone, the weapons that you're going to be using in-game are going to change. If you guys do enjoy this video or find it helpful or informative, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and comment down below what your preferred spray weapon is in Season 3 after the Combat SMG has been vaulted. So we're going to be going over both build mode and zero build in this video, because I think it changes quite considerably which game mode you're in. I feel like there's some options you have in zero build that you don't really have in build mode, because you need to fry builds. So for starters, we got the Charge SMG added to the game in the same update that vaulted the Combat SMG, and I do not think the Charge SMG is very good. I know there's going to be people out there that probably swear by this weapon, because in one specific instance, it can be good. If you have the ability to full charge it, and the opponent doesn't do anything to stop you from shooting at them, it's pretty good. But in most situations, when you're actively fighting somebody, the Charge SMG is not going to be it. Like, if you pump them and then want to swap to your SMG to spray them, it's just not going to be good. And in build mode, they're going to put out builds, and in zero build, they're just going to be shooting you with their weapons. Traditionally, the meta in zero build, I feel like, is to pump, swap to your SMG just for the amount of time it takes for your pump to be ready to shoot again, and then go back to your pump. And the Charge SMG just does not really fit in that playstyle at all. I feel like the only time you can really think this weapon is viable is if you're hiding from somebody or something, or you just completely catch them off guard and you already have it fully charged. Other than that, I don't think it's very good. And in that same situation, you already have such an advantage if you're hiding and the opponent doesn't know where you are. So even if you're using something like the Stinger SMG, you're just going to fry them. So I don't think the Charge is very good. I think it's very one-dimensional, and in the fights that it's good at, the other weapons excel as well, and the other weapons are better in fights that actually matter. You know, if you're fighting someone who's putting up a good fight, the Stinger SMG is going to be a better choice. So in build mode and zero build, I don't think the Charge is really good, and I don't think it's really worth using in Season 3. And I've tried to use it in builds, I've tried to use it in zero build, I tried to use it in creative a good amount in the pit, and it just does not seem like a weapon that's very good, in my opinion. So for build mode, I think the Stinger SMG is far and away the best choice. It already had one advantage over the Combat, in that it did more damage to builds, so you will fry walls faster with the Stinger SMG than the Combat SMG did, and that was like pretty much the only advantage the Stinger had over the Combat, in my opinion. So you don't really need to change how you play too much in build mode, going from the Combat SMG to the Stinger SMG. I think one main difference that might have to change your playstyle is the fact that it doesn't melt as fast as the Combat SMG did. I feel like there was some instances where, like, if I pumped somebody and hit them like 70, it was maybe okay to just full send into that box in the build mode with the Combat SMG. But I feel like the Stinger SMG, you're more likely to be punished in those situations. So you can't just, like, box dive as frequently as you could with the Combat SMG. You can still do that, but you want to make sure your opponent is weaker, and it's just not something you can rely on as much as you could before. But that's also really good for you if you are good at the build mode, because I feel like we've all been in those situations where you maybe pump somebody good, they box up, and then you take their wall, you make an edit play, and maybe you miss your shot, or maybe your shot doesn't hit for a very good amount. You reset the wall, and then they just walk forward and spray with the Combat SMG. And that would happen so frequently. Pretty much whenever you got someone to the point where they were weak and going to lose the fight, if you made an edit and then reset, they were always just going to walk forward and spray. And that can still happen with the Stinger SMG, but since the Stinger SMG is much weaker and has a lower headshot multiplier, it doesn't work as good. So that is one benefit in the build mode, is that I feel like you have to be smarter with this SMG. You can't just W key as brainlessly, but also if you are decent at building and you have pressure in a fight, it's less likely that the opponent can just walk forward and kill you. Whereas with the Combat SMG, even if you were ahead on damage and, like, you took their wall, pumped them, try to reset, that reset makes the wall weak, and they could just walk forward with the Combat SMG, and it had such an insane headshot multiplier that you could die even in situations where, like, you were ahead on damage massively, just because of, like, one, how slow the striker pump shoots, and two, how insane the Combat SMG's headshot multiplier was. So I think this is really good for the build mode that the Combat SMG is gone, and I think it's good for zero build as well. For zero build, I feel like you actually have so many choices now. So In the past, I made a video on how the Hammer SMG is viable as, or not the Hammer SMG, the Hammer AR is viable as an SMG. You can kind of use it as a close range weapon, and it could compete with the Combat SMG. I ended up defaulting to the Combat SMG, and in most instances, I think the Combat SMG was better than the Hammer AR as like an SMG replacement. And even in build mode, I would rather use the Hammer AR as my SMG than the Charge SMG. So in build mode, I think Stinger SMG is best, then Hammer AR, then probably Sidearm Pistol, then Ranger AR, and then the Charge SMG. I really do not think the Charge SMG is good. But when it comes to zero builds, I still don't think the Charge SMG is good, but the Hammer AR is actually really viable as just an SMG alternative all the time. The reason why I wouldn't want to use it all the time in build mode is because it's not as good at frying builds, but that's not really a problem you have in zero build. So you can use either the Stinger or the Hammer AR, I think, and both of those options are going to be really good. And like I said, I had recommended the Hammer AR in the past, or I'd recommend trying the Hammer AR in the past. It just didn't really make that much sense. And I think even in the Hammer AR video I made, I kind of talked about like maybe 1 or 2 more nerfs to the Combat SMG, and then you can really see the Hammer AR shine. Well, now the Combat SMG is gone, we just have the Stinger SMG as our SMG, and it's really good. Don't get me wrong. You can use the Stinger SMG in zero build just fine. But one advantage the Hammer AR always had over the Combat SMG even is how much range it has. It has a lot of range, and that is really helpful in the zero build mode because of how awkward some fights can be, and you might get caught off in weird situations where you're not able to build, obviously. Or even when you're taking advantage of the animals, having that added range on your spray weapon is really nice. And the Hammer AR has always had more range, but the Combat SMG had like enough range to get the job done, you know? For most fights where you were going to want to have your spray weapon out, the Combat SMG was just fine. However, one of the differences between the Stinger and the Combat SMG was, one, the Stinger has less damage, so it makes it not as good at range, but it also has less range, so it starts losing damage sooner. So the gap as far as range goes and effectiveness at like kind of close medium-ish range, you know, that area where it's not quite SMG range, but it's also not quite AUG range, the Hammer AR destroys the Stinger SMG in that range, and that is one of the benefits that you will get by running the Hammer AR in zero build. So I think this change is really good for build mode because it's less cheesy. But it's also really good in zero build because the meta is really wide open right now. I could see both the Stinger SMG and the Hammer AR being really viable, just depending on how you want to play and like the type of fights you end up getting into. And maybe like if you're playing squads and you're not the most aggressive person in the team, then using like pump Hammer AR might be really good for you. And you end up using both of these weapons the same way that you would before. If you're in like a close range shotgun fight, you're using both of them just to fill the void between shotgun shots. So you pump, switch to your Stinger SMG or your Hammer AR, spray them, and then as soon as the pump is ready to shoot, switch back to the pump and pump them again. You basically want to get as many pump shots off in the fight because you could easily hit for 100 with the pump, and then you're just using those other weapons to do damage in the meantime. That way you maybe get them a little bit weaker so that the second pump shot hopefully kills them. And the same was true with the Combat SMG. However, like I said, I think the pump Combat SMG was the far and away the best option, even though the Hammer AR was good before. The Combat SMG was just kind of better, and it edged it out. But since we're kind of pump Hammer AR or pump Stinger SMG now, I feel like in zero build, the auto shotgun got better as a result of this change in a way, or that playstyle of just using the auto shotgun got better. So if you're someone who doesn't want to use an SMG at all and you just like using the auto shotgun and you just stay on that auto shotgun the entire fight and you're just throwing out, you know, 60 to 80 damage every shot, if you're able to consistently land that, then you're going to kill really fast. And the fact that the Combat SMG is gone, it made your loadout better. Even though the auto shotgun, nothing changed with it. The pump loadout lost the Combat SMG. And so now it's a little less effective, even though the Hammer AR and the Stinger are good. It's a little less effective, so that the auto shotgun is kind of better now, or more effective comparatively than it was before. So if you are someone who really enjoys using the auto shotgun, or maybe you just don't like the feel of the Stinger SMG or the Hammer AR for whatever reason, you want to have extra room in your inventory and not carry an SMG, I think using the auto shotgun and just sticking with that is more viable than it was before this update, when Pump Combat was in the game. Pump Combat was just so good. And even though the auto shotgun has a really good fire rate, I feel like Pump Combat could definitely out DPS the auto if you're able to land good shots with both the Pump and the Combat. Now that the Combat's gone, I feel like the auto is a little bit better. So that is going to be it for this video. Just to go over it quickly, I think the Stinger SMG is far and away the best spray weapon for builds. don't really see any other case for another. The hammer AR is good, but it's not as good at frying builds, and really the only time I would use that as my SMG replacement in build mode is if I wasn't able to find a Stinger SMG for whatever reason, like off spawn. I would rather use the hammer AR than the charge SMG. I do not think the charge SMG is good, but for zero builds, I feel like you can use either the Stinger SMG or the hammer AR. Both are good choices. They kind of have different playstyles and different advantages over one another, and if you are someone who enjoys using the auto shotty, then your playstyle got a little bit better as a result of this update, because the Combat SMG is no longer there to give the pump users a little bit more damage between pump shots. If you guys did enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, comment down below which SMG you're using now that the Combat SMG has been vaulted, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.